first, U.S. President Donald Trump continues to twist and turn when it comes to trade negotiations with Canada, this time lashing out over an Ontario ad being televised in the U.S., pushing back on tariffs. Premier Doug Ford's government sponsored the commercial using a 1987 address from then U.S. President Ronald Reagan and his stance against the levies. Trump took to social media saying he's, quote, terminating all trade talks with the Carney administration over his belief that the TV commercial was fraudulently used. Jason Gaidola joins us in studio with the latest. Jason?
Good evening, Manisa. Prime Minister Mark Carney departed for Malaysia today without fielding questions regarding Premier Ford's ad. He did state that there are elements outside of Canada's control, but maintained that progress has been made with the U.S. on multiple policies.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time.
This TV advertisement, sponsored by the Ontario government, is making its way through U.S. airwaves, hoping to capture the hearts and minds of Americans about free trade. The campaign footage features the voice of former U.S. President Ronald Reagan and his position that tariffs damage economies. Now, the $75 million commercial appears to have thrown trade talks between Canada and the U.S. in a state of flux. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute put out a statement saying the ads misrepresent Reagan's address using selective audio and video, and that Ontario did not get permission to use his remarks.
Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition.
It was 1987 when Reagan spoke in a presidential radio address regarding free and fair trade tied to a conflict with Japan, but added that levies only work as short-term solutions.
The message that we're sending is really the Ronald Reagan's message that we're sending out very clearly. Protectionism does not work. A tariff on Canada is a tax on Americans, and that's the message.
My fellow Manitobans, Ontario's TV ads present Ronald Reagan's views on tariffs accurately and powerfully. So to my good friend Doug Ford, keep the ads on TV. They're effective, and this country is behind you.
Premier Wab Kinew saluted Ford's creative efforts with his own public address in the style of Reagan's 1987 speech. But Ontario's opposition leader, Mart Stiles, feels otherwise.
$75 million in taxpayer dollars to run ads that are just designed to get Donald Trump's attention. Donald Trump is not going to come up with a plan to protect jobs in Ontario. That's not going to happen.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he's now backing out of current trade negotiations with Canada. He lashed out over Ontario's ad on his Truth Social platform and says, in part, Canada cheated and got caught. They fraudulently took a big buy ad saying that Ronald Reagan did not like tariffs. And in another post, based on their egregious behavior, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. Trump claims Canada is trying to influence the U.S. Supreme Court as it prepares to consider a challenge to his global tariff agenda.
I've been involved in some of these negotiations, and the Canadians have been very difficult to negotiate with. And you look at all the countries around the world that we've made deals with, and the fact that we're now negotiating with Mexico separately reveals that it's not just about one ad, that there's frustration that's built up.
During his departure for a summit in Malaysia, Prime Minister Mark Carney had this to say.
Look, for months we have stressed the importance of distinguishing things we can control and things we can't control. We can't control the trade policy of the United States. We recognize that that policy has fundamentally changed from the policy in the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s. And it's a situation where the United States has tariffs against every one of their trading partners.
Premier Ford says he does not intend to pull the ad this weekend during the World Series, but after chatting with Carney, he says he will pause the commercial. Ford's office says Ontario will pause its U.S. advertising campaign effective Monday so that trade talks can resume. And we've achieved our goal, having reached U.S. audiences at the highest levels. So far, Carney has removed the most retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. and touts an upcoming budget with new investments and potential partnerships.
We're a bit different from the US because we're a small open economy, whereas the US is a large open or a large closed economy. So we are more dependent on trade than the US is. So it's not a bad idea for us to diversify our trading partners.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Trump is also headed to Asia to promote billions of dollars in investments for U.S. factories, a natural gas pipeline, and other projects with Japan and South Korea.